Welcome back to Chow Time Pod. It's your host, Red. Got videos today from Hans Y. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that Chow Time.
There is a cancer spreading within the Asian community.
I just wish I was white.
I really think it's the Asian community. I think it's most communities that have this particular issue. I'm not trying to be racist or like talk about race too much, but this is it's a good topic.
A cancer causing people to lose their identity
Like an Asian denial.
and even start to hate their own race.
Asian men are evil.
That cancer is white worship.
I just really like that milky complexion.
If you want to have gorgeous kids, marry someone not Asian.
What?
Blue eyes, long hair.
I thought I would have such gorgeous kids with some Asian woman. Now I have to rethink things?
White.
White worship is an irrational idolization of white or Western features, ideals, cultures, and lifestyles that cause Asians to view themselves as inferior.
I admit that this, again, and it's in almost all cultures and all races, but in Asian culture, from what I've noticed personally, it's pretty apparent. Most Asian families that I've seen outside of my own family are super into white people and white culture and want to assimilate as much as possible. I can tell you a story. My best friend in high school, in college, he got with a white Chinese woman. Her name is Grace. I just put her name out there. You guys won't know who the hell she is anyways. So Grace is white and Chinese, but she grew up here. And her mother grew up here. Her grandmother was the one that immigrated here. Her mother does not speak a lick of Chinese because the grandmother was so scared that, you know, having accents and not knowing the language and all this stuff was going to put them in such a detriment in this country. She did not teach them or instill any Asian values or Asian culture into them. And now Grace literally doesn't do anything that's Chinese, but her mother somewhat does and the grandmother does, but all that culture is completely gone with Grace, and she's pretty white in a sense.
Today we'll be discussing the factors causing white worship and how to end white worship in the Asian community. That's important because white worship causes Asians to accept and perpetuate racist Asian stereotypes in Western societies.
I'll tell the kids if someone's driving really slowly or just cutting out to say, oh, you know, bloody Asian drivers, you know.
Asian culture is just super patriarchal and misogynistic. Asian culture is just not fun.
So I'm half Chinese, I'm half Scottish.
Yeah?
But luckily for me, I'm half Scottish below the waist.
This over time can cause Asians to become self-hating Asians who are racist against Asians.
I mean, the whole joke of us having small units is the biggest running joke against us Asians.
Are you a little bit racist? I would say yes. It's actually what I call self-racism.
Those mixed race babies are gorgeous. And it's too late for my kids. They're full Asian.
One of my biggest...
What the fuck did you just say right now? Did you just say you regret your kids in a sense that because they're full Asian and you wish you had mixed race babies? Some fucked up shit to say on the internet.
Obsessions in high school was, believe it or not, like to marry a white man, and so I could take his last name and lose my Asian name.
There are even Asians who are proud that they are disconnected from their Asian heritage,
I forget that I'm Asian sometimes.
Typically, people wouldn't think that I'm Asian.
who make fun of their parents' accents,
Oh, very good man. Brought shame to the family again.
and even argue in support of policies which discriminate against Asians purely on the basis of race. Some will try to find every single excuse to attack Asian culture. I mean, check out this article by an Asian woman who somehow turned a story about 3 Asian women being assaulted by white men into a story about the oppressiveness of Asian culture. But did she mention Western culture? Of course not, even though the majority of crimes against Asian American women are committed by non-Asian men. And if you think that's bizarre, during a tennis match in 2024, an Asian American spectator called Chinese star Zheng Qingwen a yellow banana.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
It gets even worse. Many Asians idolize Western beauty standards so much, they start suffering from body image issues and...
This is true. I do know a lot of Asians that hate their chinky eyes. Oh shit, I said that word. Crap, I might have to cut that out. I've used that word a couple times in another video and they freaking demonetized me. Hopefully just one time. It's okay. Yeah, but yeah, because their eyes are small and they feel a way about it. They're getting surgery to, you know, widen their eyes in a sense. And the double eyelid thing is such a big thing for Asians. I know, especially Koreans and a lot of other Asians, they're born with only that single eyelid, and that double eyelid thing is like I guess the bee's knees in a sense when it comes to looks. I still like women that don't have double eyelids personally, but I can see somewhat why they have an issue with it, just because almost everybody has double eyelids.
Poor mental health to the point of undergoing expensive and unnecessary cosmetic procedures. And some Asians just plain hate being Asian. All these harmful behaviors are symptoms of internalized racism, a condition linked to white worship. It's a form of self-hatred whereby Asians believe they are inferior because of their race. Internalized racism destroys people's confidence and self-respect, makes them feel helpless and even...
I mean, you guys see this in like probably a lot of videos of Asian men that are struggling with dating. Yeah, they really have this inferiority complex when it comes to in the Western culture. It somewhat makes sense, but it doesn't make sense because us Asians are the highest earning demographic in the United States. We're probably one of the most stable demographics in the United States. But media says we have small penises and we're super patriarchal and whatever the fuck they just said earlier. So that was a big counter to, well, they earn good money.
And turn against their own race. The worst part is, people are often unaware of their own self-hatred and white worship. It's hard to break free from this cycle of hatred. The more Asians experience white worship, the more likely they are to suffer from internalized racism, causing them to behave in ways that result in...
I was very fortunate. My father loves our culture, loves our country, loves just Asian in general. And he was so adamant with keeping that in me that I'm super Asian. I eat Asian food like 95% of the time. I cook rice pretty often with my rice cooker. And I still go to the temple and do all of the Asian Cambodian holidays and things like that with my family. So I was really kept immersed into that Asian culture, even though American culture and Western culture was like trying to pry itself in. And it got in, of course, because I don't have an accent. Most people think I'm some Valley boy when I speak because I sound like a North Cal guy. I've just been told this, so I don't know. So
in more white worship and more internalized racism. And we all know that believing you are inferior because of your race will destroy your mental health and the way you see yourself. If we know white worship is so destructive, then how come it's so common amongst Asians?
Yes, Europe is a garden. The rest of the world, and you know very well, Federica, is not exactly a garden. The rest of the world, most of the rest of the world, is a jungle.
European countries have a long history of invading other countries, enslaving the natives, and establishing white supremacy. They believed they had racial and cultural superiority, and felt they were superior human beings, civilizing the savage and backward people of Africa, Asia, and the Americas. White supremacy became embedded in society, and colonized people began to associate whiteness with power and beauty. Being white was viewed as ideal, and if you were not...
This is, I 100% agree, because Westerners are white and they conquered pretty much everything. Yeah, people can kind of see that as like, oh, yeah, that's the dominant, the more powerful thing, race in a sense. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying, just as people that are getting conquered, I can see that as what you're viewing.
Not white, then you should be as white as possible. For example, in countries like India, British colonial rule solidified the cultural preference for lighter skin and Eurocentric features. While in Latin American countries, a common ideology is you should improve the race by marrying white people. It would also be impossible to discuss white worship without talking about...
What? You have to improve the race by marrying white people? Wow, that's interesting. I love Hispanic culture. I love the Hispanic race. My best friend's freaking Mexican and Guatemalan. I don't mind dating Latin women. Like, it's weird.
The United States of America. After the genocide of indigenous Americans, a war for independence, and the end of slavery, the USA officially became the land of opportunity.
True.
This resulted in mass immigration from all parts of the world. Over time, America would grow to become the most dominant superpower in the world,
True.
especially in terms of media and pop culture influence. American culture and Western culture by extension became the ideal for the world to aspire to. But while America was said to be this place where everyone had the opportunity to succeed, it was still very much a country rooted in white supremacy. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Asians were said to be a threat to white society, resulting in murders and hate crimes against Asians. In the late 1900s, Asians were blamed for the economy, resulting in murders and hate crimes against Asians. And nowadays, well, nothing's really changed. I mean, America literally has a $1 billion bill to spread anti-China propaganda.
China, 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 China.
I'm gonna have to be like, yeah, China is a little bit of concern, but I do agree with how propaganda props it up. It makes people kind of hate on Chinese people too.
And let's not forget how all Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps during World War II, or how the dehumanizing model minority stereotype was forced onto Asian Americans. A constant reminder they can never be an equal American without being.
I felt like putting us as like the model minority really just pitted Asians against all other minorities in a sense. The way that the US and Western culture kind of did that, all other minorities look at Asians in like contempt and hate because we were given the label, and it seemed like we were given like the extra boost leg up because we were Asian. A lot of people are hating on it. Like, I'll talk about this. I don't really want to, but like, there's people in the black community that kind of hate on Asians because they think that we got extra loans and stuff to be able to open up businesses in like the more black communities and things like that. In a sense, yes. And back in the day, there were some of that, but that doesn't mean we wanted to go into the black community and take over. No, you got to remember, everybody's opportunists. When the government or somebody says they're willing to do something for you, to especially like help you out or start a business for you or something, or when you want to start a business, it's also not has to do something with the government. It's just, where can you afford the business? That's a major part that I don't think a lot of people think about. Businesses in black communities and more ghetto areas, and just like, you know, I'm not saying black communities are ghetto, I'm just saying the more ghetto areas are cheaper. Businesses are much, much cheaper there. That's majority of the reason why a lot of Asians moved into those neighborhoods and things like that, because we wanted to start businesses. We saved up enough money for businesses. We just couldn't buy them in the white community. I don't know if they barred us from doing it in the white community. I'm not too that in depth into the history of it, but it was definitely much cheaper and affordable to do it. You know why I say this? Because I literally experienced this with my gas station, my father's gas station. We used to have a donut shop in Bellflower area next to Compton or whatever. It's a good donut shop. We liked it. And then when we went to look for gas stations that weren't in the ghetto were going to be like 2.5 or like 1.5 plus, maybe 2 mil plus. And we couldn't afford that. But the gas station we did end up getting is in the ghetto, you know, like a pretty bad neighborhood, but we got it for like 1.2. And that was a good deal for all of the land and the actual gas station itself. Like we didn't go there because we wanted to, you know, be superior to, you know, ghetto people or whatever it was. No, it was just, we are part of that community in a sense because we lived there and we work there every day. I don't understand why people don't see us as part of the ghetto community or ghetto ourselves in a sense, just because we own the business there. And we bought that business from a black ownership before. And I don't know. It's just weird to me that people just see race so much and they don't see just people struggle. right? Everybody struggles of all different race. I don't think very many people is in the forefront of their mind is how to step on other races or, I hate on other races. It's survival first majority of the time.
White. To this day, Asian Americans still have to overcome additional challenges in all areas of life because they are Asian. So imagine you are an Asian born in America, and everything around you is telling you white people are better than you, and you are inferior for being Asian. When you take all that into consideration,
it's funny because we always get the pushback of, no, Asian culture is awesome. Everybody loves Asian. I love Asians. I get it. But when you look at media and you look at the whole of the United States, I don't think it's the same. Especially in states that are not so liberal or not so mixed in race, it's different.
you can start to understand why so many Asians in the West develop some level of internalized racism and white worship. But we are just getting started. White worship and self-hatred can be intergenerational, passed down from parents to children.
What do you guys think about Asian boys? Look over there.
My mom told me just like since I was a young girl, but not to be with an Asian guy.
Why? Well, actually,
I have no explanation.
Is your dad Caucasian or is he Asian?
My father's white. He's German.
I was a teenager and I was with my mother, and we started talking about guys that I would date, who would I marry. And I remember she said it very matter of fact. She was like, yeah, you most likely will marry a white guy.
My family brought me up to be very assimilated. If I see a bad driver that cuts me off, I'll let go, are they Asian? And my reaction was, oh, you're Asian, you can't read.
Like racism, white worship.
You're Asian, you can't read? What the fuck? I mean, I do admit I live in a very Asian-centric area, I'm pretty close to Garden Grove and OC in Southern California. I admit there are some older Asian people that can't drive and probably can't see, but it's just funny that you automatically go, oh, they're Asian, they can't read.
Is learned behavior. No one is born thinking white people are superior or I must marry a white person to improve the race. In addition, many Asian immigrants in Western society believe in assimilation. They don't teach their children anything about their Asian heritage and culture. And when
this is why I said I was very fortunate. My father and my family was super into our culture and did not want to lose our culture. Did we lose some of it? Sure. A lot of our younger generation is a little bit more Americanized than most, but we tried.
Asian parents make that mistake. You end up with young Asians who have no connection with their Asian background, yet will still face all the challenges of being Asian in Western society because discrimination, stereotyping, and hate crimes against Asians are about race, not culture.
See, the thing is, I wasn't born here, so I feel a little bit different because I'm still an immigrant. I'm not even first generation, so I'm fortunate I don't have an accent because apparently an accent is a pretty big thing with us Asians, and being made fun of.
To whatever Asian country you belong in.
Asian piece of
This ultimately leads to white worship and internalized racism. Your nationality and culture can change, but you will always be Asian. Remember that. Furthermore, in many Asian countries, colorism, the belief that lighter skin is superior to darker skin, plays a huge role in white worship because, well...
I will 100% agree with this. I'm a darkie. I can literally show you guys pictures of me and my family, and it's just one dark guy. And everybody else is super light. I'm the black sheep. I mean, I look decent and I keep myself pretty well, so I'm still good looking to them, but I would not be first choice. If there was someone that was just as good looking as me and had lighter skin, yeah. And I'll even tell you guys a story, not to talk shit on my mom or anything like that, because Asian people are just like this, or especially the older Asian generation. My mom was on a FaceTime with her friends from Cambodia, and she was FaceTiming. I was there. I was helping her. I think it was helping her set up some karaoke stuff. And she was like, "Oh, look at my son!" And they show me, and they're like, "Oh, he's so handsome." Blah blah blah. Right? And then she turns the camera back to her and she was like, "You think he's handsome? You should check out his younger brother. He's taller than him and lighter skinned than him and he looks Chinese." She said that literally in front of me and I was just like, "Damn, Mom. Is that how you feel about me?" Mom loves me, but yeah, that's just how she feels.
White people have lighter skin.
Get out of the sun, you're getting darker. Darker is ugly. Look at all my white friends. They're not dark.
And again, it's funny because American culture is quite the opposite. If you're white and pale, you're not usually the most sought after complexion. But if you're like bronze and tanned all the time, like that's more sought after complexion, which is, again, people just want what they don't have kind of thing, I'm assuming. I don't know.
They're white.
Which is ironic because in countries like Australia, a white-dominated Western country, having a tan is often considered more attractive than being pale. So maybe, you know, we should stop basing our value as human beings on the color of our skin.
Agree.
White people. I'm not racist though.
Now it's time for my favorite topic. Western media. Western media has an obsession with dehumanizing, denigrating, and erasing Asians, especially Asian men. In Hollywood, the majority of Asian characters are joke characters. It's genuinely bizarre how many high-profile Asian actors have spoken about being pressured to play a racist stereotype. And of course, the face of Asian Americans in Hollywood is not talented actors like John Cho, Steven Yeun, or Manny Jacinto. It's Ken Jeong.
Isn't he the dude from The Hangover that plays the grossest stereotype of an Asian?
I don't think I ever play a character just balls out funnier character than Mr. Chow.
Here's a script where you jump out of a trunk and show everyone your micro penis.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, done. I'm in.
It's fine.
Can I sign up for part 2?
Yeah. Oh, there's 3 of them? Great.
Yeah, it was a magical time. And it just changed my life forever.
Likewise, only 6% of Asian characters on streaming shows have lead roles, with 42% of AAPI characters.
See, this part I can understand, and I'm not really upset about it in any way, shape, or form. There's just more Americans. There's more white people and more of other races in the United States that want to be movie stars, that want to do these things. I don't think very many Asians aspire to be movie stars. Fuck, I may be wrong, actually. Maybe Asians do aspire to be movie stars, but our parents told us lawyer or doctor.
Having some physical proximity to whiteness. This picture celebrating the 2024 Paris Olympics tells you all you need to know. No Asian male athletes and just one token Asian woman, even though 3 Asian countries finished in the top 10. And remember how Western media went crazy with doping accusations when Pan Zhangle broke the 100-meter freestyle swimming record. But when Michael Phelps dominated swimming, he was celebrated by Western media for being a genetic freak. Now, I will say I understand why this happens. You should expect Western media and the white people in charge to want to uphold white supremacy. Yet many westernized Asians only pay attention to Western media. And if you form your opinions based on Western media alone, then of course, you are going to suffer from internalized racism and white worship. Racial abuse can destroy a person's mental health and self-esteem, and even result in symptoms similar to Stockholm Syndrome. So let's talk about the overwhelming racism against Asians in Western society. Whenever you see an Asian guy dating a white girl on social media, the comments are always full of racial abuse. But what if you are an Asian person just trying to exist? That's right, racism. Some people, including so-called educators, even blame high-achieving Asian students for causing anxiety for white students. What? Bloody hell, some people sure get salty when they lose to an Asian person. And don't forget Western society's #1 rule, collective punishment. When one Asian does something wrong, all Asians are to blame. All Asians are apparently anti-black because one Asian cop didn't help George Floyd.
We Asian Americans have weaponized our proximity to whiteness in order to murder black people.
All Asian men are misogynistic because some Asian girl's dad was misogynistic, even though they don't make the same generalizations about white people, despite the fact many women don't even have rights to their own bodies in Western countries. And of course, all Asians are to blame for a virus originating in China, especially the defenseless Asian elderly living in America. I bet some people genuinely believe all Asians are the same person. You know, let's illustrate Western double standards for a second. For example, mass shootings are frequent in America, often committed by white men, but no one blames every single white person for every shooting, or say all white people are violent. In fact,
I mean, this one, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit, brother, because there's a lot of people that do blame all of these things on white people. I hear it all the time on my side of the coin. So I'm gonna disagree slightly.
Opposite happens. Race suddenly becomes irrelevant when a white person commits a crime. Instead, it's, oh, they just had a bad day. Or it's because they are mentally unwell. Or hey, let's try to redirect the blame onto a minority instead. And how come people don't blame all white people for the crimes of white media elites? Or talk about how problematic Western culture is when criminals committing crimes against children are constantly defended. I mean, look, the white American presidential candidate has done all kinds of questionable yet we don't make generalizations about all white people because of his actions, even though he wants to and has represented America.
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
And let's not forget everyone's favorite, white people in countries like America and Australia telling Asians to go back where they came from. And if you are one of those people, I'm pretty sure the indigenous population would love it if you, your parents, and your ancestors all f***ed off back to Europe. But here we are.
True.
Now, I guarantee someone is typing in my comments right now, Hans, you shouldn't blame all white people for the actions of individual white people. That's racist and illogical. You should stop doing that. You should stop doing that. Stop doing that. Yeah, no. So stop doing it to Asians. Basically, in Western society, if you are white, you are an individual first and foremost. Your actions and beliefs only reflect on yourself, not your entire race, right?
This I 100% agree with, and this is how it should be, but if only.
Fully so. But if you are Asian in Western society, you are a nation first and foremost. You will have to deal with all the negative stereotypes Western society forces onto you, and it's also your...
No, I've been told this robotic thing a lot, just because I'm so... I guess I'm a lot more emotionless than I used to be, and I just always have this straight stone face. And I work ridiculously a lot and a lot of hours. Everybody's just like, how are you such a robot? Everybody calls me a robot.
Your fault every time an Asian person or country does something wrong. That's why, even though I'm against self-hating white-worshipping Asians, I can understand them. It's easy for people to start feeling helpless and fall into despair when they are constantly attacked and discriminated against because of their race. And unfortunately, racism against Asians goes beyond verbal abuse and microaggressions. It feels like every single day you hear about another hate crime committed against innocent Asians, and no one really cares. Compare the scale of Black Lives Matter and Stop Asian Hate. It should tell you all you need to know. And one major reason for this is because all sides of Western politics don't really care about Asians. First, you have conservatives, most of them believing and support white supremacy, and some are just blatantly racist.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals, they're humans. I said, no, they're not humans, they're not humans, they're animals.
Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you. Because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
Then you have liberals who love to claim they are allies to marginalized groups, except when it comes to Asians. Because let's be honest, Asians aren't as important as other minorities. So much for being allies to everyone facing discrimination.
We don't know if it was unprovoked. What did he do to get attacked?
You know, let's talk about this another time. For now, what's important is we are aware there are many factors working together to cause white worship in the Asian community.
And again, he focuses on the Asian community in particular right now, but I think it's in every community. It's quite apparent in almost every community. You know, Indian communities, Hispanic communities. I can't even think of very many others right now because I'm like lost. But yeah, like just all other minorities, yeah, they have this somewhat because again, he's right. We grew up in the United States. The media here is different. You know, it's tailored to more white Western Aryan people. It makes sense.
Which is why there are so many self-hating Asians who are victims and perpetrators of white worship and racism. Essentially, self-hating Asians act in ways which normalize and encourage racism against Asians. It's a perpetual cycle of white worship. White supremacy and racism against Asians lead to white worship and internalized racism, creating self-hating Asians who reinforce white supremacy and racism against Asians. Self-hating Asians are especially harmful because Well, they are Asian. This often allows them to be blatantly racist against Asians without any pushback. Racist.
Yes. This is the part where I do agree. Because you are of that race, you get to be blatantly racist to your own race. That is pretty stupid.
Weaponize them, essentially using them to validate their racist opinions. Upstanding individuals who are against racism are less likely to challenge self-hating Asians when they make racist statements against Asians. And people without any—
True. Now that I think about it, when I hear like racist Asian jokes coming from an Asian, I just think it's funny sometimes. I don't really think it's self-hating in any way, shape, or form. I might have to start rethinking that.
Any preconceived notions about Asians are likely to be negatively influenced by the racist viewpoints of self-hating Asians. Now somehow, quotation marks, self-hating Asians are often the ones who are chosen to represent the Asian community in Western society. I'm very thankful I grew up in Asia before going to a Western country for university.
Maybe I 100% agree with Han on this. Even though that I wasn't even living in that other country for that long. I was there only till 5 years old. But when I came here, the biggest difference I noticed is between me and my brother and sister. My brother and sister were both born here in the United States, and they had privileges that I didn't. We are totally different people. Like my brother and sister want to live a nice, easy life. They want to, be happy. I can care less about being happy. I want to be successful. I want to work hard. I want to be top echelon type thing. Like, I didn't come to this country, for the opportunities that this country offers, to not take advantage of those opportunities, in my opinion.
Saw the best and worst of both worlds, and I know what it feels like to be treated as a person and just another Asian. And I understand all societies are flawed because we humans are flawed. And the fact is, we are all humans. Which is why it's honestly disappointing to see so many Asians who are not proud of their heritage, who hate who they are, Asians who genuinely believe white people are inherently superior. White worship, like racism, is learned behavior. And now that we understand all the factors causing white worship, it's time for us to end it. First and foremost, understand, it's okay to be Asian. You are equal to everyone else, regardless of what racists want you to believe. So critically analyze negative messages you hear about Asians. Ask yourself, do those negative messages about Asians actually apply to all humans, not just Asians? And whether they are being spread by people actively trying to undermine you and your value as a human being. For example, all the negative stereotypes about Asians in Western society were created and perpetuated by people who benefit from white supremacy. And objectively, any human being can have those negative qualities, regardless of race. The very same negative Asian stereotypes don't exist in Asian countries. In fact, Asians are doing great. The fastest swimmer is Asian. The best baseball player ever is Asian. Asians have been dominating weightlifting for ages. There are plenty of Asian CEOs and other fantastic role models. You have the ability to think.
I do admit Ohtani, me being, in LA and, big Dodgers. Shout out to Ohtani.
Critically, so don't just blindly accept negative messages society wants you to believe about yourself. We must also actively bring awareness to all the factors causing white worship in the Asian community. Most minorities in Western societies grow up being taught they are inferior because they are not white. Remember, internalized racism can be subconscious, and if white worship is all you have ever known, and you are not aware it's a learned condition, then you might never overcome it. To solve any problem, you must first be aware the problem exists. So let's all do our part, because no one deserves to live life believing they are inferior. We must also actively fight back against racism, because like it or not, your race matters and affects every aspect of your life, from daily social interactions to employment and even housing. Because it doesn't matter if you are a third-generation Asian American, you will still be a target of racism, because racists don't care about your nationality or where you were born. They care about your race, and people will make decisions about you based on stereotypes they have heard about Asians. I mean, look, American politics is pretty much all about race and identity politics, so don't be passive or apathetic about matters relating to race. I don't have all the the answers to ending racism, but I do know nothing will change if we just remain silent and take it like cowards. It hasn't worked for over 200 years, and we all know what the definition of insanity is. So don't let racists control the narrative. Don't allow them to force you into submission, and stop letting them treat you like a punching bag. Use all the injustice to motivate yourself to become a better person and take an active role in changing society for the better. I encourage you to...
This is where I wish that the red pill and our side of things would be a little bit more active in these things, but it's so hard to make people active in changing their own lives. It really is.
Learn about your heritage, the culture of your parents, the history of your ancestors. One reason why white worship is so common among westernized Asians is because most of them are only exposed to the Western education system, and what little they do learn about Asia will be from a Western or white perspective. If we Asians don't teach our children what it means to be Asian, then non-Asians will. Stop learning about Asia from people who have never been to Asia. There is so much about your Asian heritage to appreciate, celebrate, and be proud of. Don't let Western society take that away from you. Having a diverse worldview will always serve you well in life, and you are much less likely to fall victim to white worship and internalized racism if you are proud of your Asian identity. And don't just rely on Western media. Western media will always cater to white audiences, and Western media will continue to demonize or erase Asians, especially Asian men. So vote with your wallet. Support projects that feature positive Asian representation, and support proud Asian creatives who refuse to be clowns for Hollywood. Call out Asian sellouts who deserve to feel ashamed, and give Eastern media a chance if you haven't already. It's very empowering to see Asian...
I love Eastern media. I love the Chinese romance freaking movies and shows. I used to watch it all the time when I was a kid. It's probably why I still speak Cambodian very well. It's called Khmer. I know, I don't want people to fucking get me on the comment section. But yeah, when I grew up, all the Chinese romance movies and shows, they got dubbed in Cambodian or in Khmer. And my dad would rent all those movies because I loved watching sword fighting. It was pretty much Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon on steroids. And it was the whole show / movie. And it was like 23 episodes of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type stuff. It was awesome as a kid. Loved watching it. And when words came up that I didn't know, I would just ask my dad. So it really kept my language. It kept me speaking because I constantly was listening to it.
Characters who are actual people and not just another racist caricature or stereotype. I keep saying this, and I will keep saying this. We simply must challenge self-hating Asians. I am extremely impressed by the justified hatred the black community has for people like Candace Owens, Clarence Thomas, and pretty much anyone who doesn't positively represent the black community. They make it clear self-haters and white worshippers do not have their support. We Asians simply must do the same because let's be real, is it really a surprise white worship and self-hatred are so common when the most prominent Asian Americans in traditional Western media are people like Ken Jeong? While social media is full of westernized Asians making fun of Asian cultures, traditions, and accents.
Did David Chang just ask Uncle Roger to shut up?
The movie begins with female Voldemort investigating a scientist. Emotional damage!
Oh, my dad, the rocker, this, he always...
Every self-respecting Asian must be united against white-worshipping, self-hating Asians who hate being Asian. And if you are a young Asian person, here's the honest truth. You are Asian, and you will always be Asian. And in this day and age, you will have to overcome additional challenges in Western society. Is it fair? No. But you are not powerless, and you are not helpless. And your life certainly won't get any better by hating yourself and your race. So don't become a victim who can't defend themselves. And don't become a coward who won't defend themselves. You are human like everyone else. You have control over your mind, and you can choose the type of person you want to be. So be someone who changes the world for the better. Someone you can be proud of. And show the world you are superior. Not because of your race, but because of the strength of your character.
Shout out to my man Hans. I'm Asian. I love being Asian. I'm proud of being Asian. And most of my family are, but there's a lot of people outside of my family. A lot of Asians that I see out and about, especially Asian men that are very down on luck when it comes to dating or dealing with women. I think Asian men really feel this. They feel this so harshly just because media and even, you know, podcasts and whatever, Asian women going on there just shitting on them. Right? It is something I was like aware of, but personally didn't really affect me in a sense because I don't really experience so much racism personally. But I also am empathetic about it and understand. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.